Yeah, we're going to put a man on the moon, and we'll do it before the decade's over. What? I mean, there's no way. I mean, this is like, this kind of technology doesn't even exist. What did he say? We're going to make some alloys that don't exist yet. We don't even know what they are. I mean, that's kind of intimidating, right? So the realization here, and my takeaway from this 2 minutes of watching JFK talk, he was inspiring. He was motivating. He was committed. And his commitment became infectious. Nothing during this space race is going to be more impressive, important, and difficult or expensive to accomplish. What? So the key, the reason I wanted you all to watch that is just to kind of get into that mindset, that heart set of what we're talking about, and achieving success innovatively, unconventionally. So when I think of convention, I think of the way things are always done. To get to the moon, we got to do things differently. We've got to innovate the way things are done. So in the context of performance, I'm going to give you the 15 points right now that are going to allow you to be able to change your mind around how you can optimize your performance. And this is how they did it at NASA with JFK. So the first thing is awareness of, again, we talk about awareness, of obliviousness. Number one, we don't know what we don't know. Metaphorically, it's like you're sleeping. When you're sleeping, you just don't know what you don't know. A lot of people call it maybe ignorance. I mean, I'm ignorant of a lot of things. I just don't know what I don't know, and ignorance is bliss some of the time. So some of the time, as we take this context of obliviousness, it's ubiquitous. It's happening all the time. I don't know what I don't know. I have blind spots. Like right now, I can't see my hand behind my head. Right? That's a blind spot. I'm oblivious. I know it's there, but I'm oblivious toward what it looks like. I can't. So awareness of this. There's a story, by the way. There was this guy in Australia. His name is Cliff Young, and in 1983, there was a 475-mile race between Melbourne and Sydney, Australia, and they had this race every year. And in 1983, this guy Cliff Young, he was a 63-year-old farmer. He didn't know how to run and everything, but he wanted to take this on, and he wore his cowboy boots on this run. And it's a 475-mile race between Melbourne and Sydney. And he went ahead and participated in his cowboy boots. The 63-year-old farmer in Australia named Cliff Young won the race. Out of the hundreds of people that were participating in this 475-mile race, running this race, 63 years old in his cowboy boots. He won it. How did he win it? Well, because he didn't stop to sleep. Apparently what you do is with a 475-mile race, it's a multiple-day event. Nobody told him that he had to stop to sleep. So he just kept going. So he didn't know what he didn't know. Isn't that cool? He didn't know what he could do. He didn't know what he couldn't do. So that's obliviousness. So being aware of what we don't know that we don't know. That's our first responsibility. It's our first prerogative. Then the second point, boom, the light comes on. It's awareness. It's what we're talking about today, awareness of ourselves. It's like a bird breaking out of its shell. Suddenly your environment is illuminated. You can now see what you weren't seeing before. So awareness of your body, awareness of your environment, awareness of your judgment, awareness of things that might be holding you back. Bringing issues and problems and distractions from outside the workplace, awareness of that. Waning motivation, procrastination, awareness of that. So being aware, so you were oblivious of it before, and now you get to be aware of it. So write these down. So number one, oblivious. Number two, awareness. Number three is understanding. So now that you got the awareness and you get the light on, now it's your prerogative to understand that. Basically, you get to be congruent with what you're saying and how you're being. So if you make a declaration, you made a goal like we did in December to achieve something by the end of 2017, you get to understand what it takes to achieve those goals. Like with Kennedy going to the moon, he didn't know what he didn't know. His team didn't know what they didn't know. They were oblivious, but then they became aware of an ideal, and then the imperative is to unpack that and understand what you get to know. So suddenly the former obliviousness becomes obvious, and the obvious becomes normal. So oftentimes people experience better discernment of colors in this context. Maybe their tastes are more intense. That awareness of those best practices, open communication, positive relationships, collaboration, they become aware of this. So awareness. So obliviousness. What was the second one?
Awareness.
Understanding. The fourth one, education. So now that you're aware of what you got to educate yourself, now you got to get the education. You got to know what truck insurance is about. You got to know what your clients don't know about policies. You got to know if somebody calls in and they've got a hazmat requirement, you got to educate yourself, you know? And this is where the strength finder comes in. This is where the self-awareness comes in. This is where you got to educate yourself on your parental upbringing, keeping that saw sharp, right? From Stephen Covey's 7 Habits. The 7th habit is keeping the saw sharp. Educating yourself, honing that all the time, reading books, always reading, attend seminars, come to things like this that we do every 60 days. It keeps that education aware. It keeps your edge honed, which is the 4th point. So obliviousness, awareness. What was the 3rd one? Understanding, education. Okay, so educating ourselves. Setting goals is an aspect of education. The 5th one is skill development, educating yourself. Now it's about conditioning. And look, I love the picture on the screen there. It's like sparring with an opponent, you know. It's about enduring, conditioning yourself to endure like the champions do. When I was in the Marine Corps, one of the things we did was hand-to-hand training. We were trained on hand-to-hand combat. And it was never easy. It wasn't necessarily fun. We made it fun because, you know, we kind of chose to be in that condition. But it was about overtaking the opponent and conditioning yourself to be stronger, to think like you weren't thinking before. So you've been conditioned so far in your life by other people and in your life based on your attitudes, your beliefs, and your emotion. Awareness of that is the key. Now it's time to recondition and redevelop those skills based on everything we're talking about. Distilling, instilling, and installing new beliefs, new rituals, and new ideals through disciplined approaches. That's what skill development's about. So again, obliviousness, awareness, understanding, education, skill development. Notice how it's a progressive ideal. You're going from a black room to awareness, honing the skills, but at the same time, in the context of sparring with an opponent, it takes courage. You've got to have courage. Even in the face of the dragon, there's always going to be reasons to stop. If you have the courage, all you need is a chance. In this context of stepping up, even when knowing what you know, there's going to be times that you're not comfortable. It's going to happen, especially as a champion. You know, you got to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep going, keep persevering. And that's where the gut comes in. We talk about courage. I love the picture here. The pictures, by the way, pictures paint 1,000 words.
I love that
picture. That cat, you know, that cat's got some courage, baby. So, and that's what we get to do. So write these down. I want you to write these down on a piece of paper. These are for you to be able to process as you're going through this. And this is where the gut check comes in. Awareness of all you could be doing. This is where journaling comes in. What's stopping you? What's stopping you from being courageous? Okay, so obliviousness, awareness. What was the 3rd one?
Understanding
and education. 5th was what? Skill development, sparring, right? Courage, having the courage, awareness of courage. The 7th point is initiative. Okay, this is where trust comes in. This is where you get to stop tolerating and trust yourself, believe in yourself. Everything you've done in the first 6 steps has equipped you to be able to have the capability to push forward and persevere. It took 10 years to get to the moon. 5 years into that process, we were like, okay, we're there. We got to keep this initiative going. We got to keep it going. Boldness, right? Goethe said this, right? Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Take the initiative. Be bold. You know, in the context of the application to your solution. So think about this for Western truck. What are the benefits that people can glean from your solutions? Not necessarily the features, but think about how this truck, this risk mitigation, is going to benefit people's lives. It's probably going to allow them to sleep better at night. It's probably going to allow them to have a better peace of mind. It's going to allow them to have more affluence. So being oriented toward applying everything we talked about in the first 6 steps and taking the initiative to apply it. And then, of course, taking action. So application of all these key principles in the first 7 steps is the action gets to be calculated, but not too calculated. So you think of, again, back to Michael Jordan or anybody, somebody on a dressage horse or whatever. It's the application of the principles, and you get to step up and do it. And a lot of people think, well, I'm not ready. Well, you're ready. If you've done the first 7 steps effectively, you're ready. So we can do anything we choose. Take it from Kennedy. Okay. The 9th step is a big one. It's failure. One of the things that's consistent towards success is failure. We talk about the yin and the yang. Failure, success. Failure, success. It's always going to happen. There's no avoiding failure. Expect it. Accept it. Embrace it. Realize it's going to happen. Because if you don't, you're not going to take that initiative. You're not going to take that action. You're not going to have that courage. You know? So think about all the times that you've failed in life. Everybody in this room, I'm not even going to ask for a show of hands. We've all failed, right? Think of all the times you failed. Awareness of that. But don't get down on yourself. Just realize it's part of the human nature. And the 10th step, which is process that. You know, a strategic understanding of the maneuver. Like I think about, for me, again, as a Marine, I think about battle and war. I'm not necessarily a big fan of war necessarily. But you know, we studied tactics of like Civil War tactics, World War II tactics, things that were done on the battlefield, and we processed why the failure happened. So it's really important to be able to process why you failed, learn from your mistakes, and then advance to the 11th step, which is resilience. Get back up. You know, like Gumby, right? Get up, be flexible. You know, one of the things I was about was I excelled in the sport of rowing, these long, thin boats. And when you rowed, some of the time you would get in a situation where I wouldn't take the stroke right, and I would get thrown out of the boat, and I failed. Well, the key is to process and get back in the boat. You know, get back in your seat. You know, and realize that some of the time the longer term objectives are going to take a little bit of time to achieve. I had a buddy of mine who, when he was 21 years old, he had a brain tumor. And they cut the brain tumor out successfully, but he had complications, and he ended up having an aneurysm. And I had to fly to Texas to say goodbye to him because he was 21 years old. He was getting ready to pass away. And he just got accepted to the Episcopal, to be an Episcopal priest. He just got accepted to seminary, and he had this brain tumor. Wow, is that a message from God or what? So, I mean, it turns out he recovered. They gave him a 20% chance of living, but through resilience and commitment and courage, and everything we've talked about in the first 10 steps, he stepped up, he recovered, he's disabled. The whole right side of his body is disabled, but what did he do? He went back to the Episcopal Church, he got ordained, and now he's an Episcopal preacher or priest for the rest of his life. Very interesting story of resilience. His name is Tom, by the way, one of my best friends. So think about that in life, failures that you've been encountered with. How resilient have you been? And in this context, the 12th step is renewed effort. You know, you're rejuvenated, you're alive again. Take action. This is the time where you're going to be motivated and like a butterfly coming out of the cocoon, you know? Realize that it's time to fly in the face of everything that's happened in the first 11 steps. And then victory happens. Woo! Celebrate your victory. Power. Feel it. The thrill of victory, you know? We've all felt it before. You know, think of all the times that you've had victory in the context of everything you've conditioned yourself to do, whether it be in athletics, you know, having a child, you know, getting married, anything successful in your life, you know. So it's the application of this and realize that victory gets to be savored. Then from there, you get to advance. Take it to the next level. Now that you've got your victory, keep practicing. Promote your thought process. You know, think of what your ambition here is at Western Truck. Where do you want to be in a year? You know, where do you want to be in 2 years, 3 years, you know, 5 years? You know, set that advancement structure in place. Let the people in the hierarchy know what your ambitions are and strive to advance in the context of your business. Otherwise, you know, you can become complacent, and all those things we talked about around suboptimal performance may kick back in. And then the 15th step is back to action. Okay, then it becomes a cycle. So by the way, so here's a summary. Again, I call it the unconventional success cycle. We're going to review it real quick. So here we go. Everybody with me all together. The first one is at the bottom left there, obliviousness, right?
Yep.
Second one is what?
Awareness.
Third one?
Understanding.
Education.
Skills.
Skill development. Courage.
Initiative.
Taking action. Failure. Processing.
Resilience.
Resilience. Bouncing back.
Renewed effort.
Renewed effort. Victory! Celebrate the victory.
Advancement.
Advancement, and then, of course, taking action again.
Back
and
to
notice
step
how the
one.
action goes down back to take action. So notice the icons and the metaphors that I'm embedding in your mind with these pictures. You've written them down. Read them. Have them in front of you on a regular basis to remind yourself that it's a process. It's a cycle. And you go from point 15 back to point number 8. By the way, what is action? Step number, the first point.
8.
Is it 8?
8?
Okay, so you're going from 15 to 8. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 8. And that becomes a cycle. So then success and performance becomes a cyclical paradigm, just like the stock market. It's always ticking up. There's going to be downturns. But as long as you're taking that application, you're applying it, you can't help but succeed. It's going to be an upward trend. This is how the champions do it. This is how performance is optimized. I've now given you a construct, and we've had a good discussion around what might be holding us back. But the key now is you get to commit to taking your life and this business to the next pinnacle through awareness.